Hi, I'm Dr. Linda F. Williams. I'm a survivor of domestic violence and a 17-year marriage to a man who was later convicted as a... What you're about to hear are excerpts from my unfiltered interview from a few months ago. I placed a link to that episode in the pinned comments and in the show notes below. I'm on the campus of Eastern Michigan University. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm in nothing but a nightgown, barefoot, and I'm just out of my mind. Now, I gotta tell y'all, a lot of times when you have lost it, when you have had the nervous breakdown, you're clueless. You're in straight up survival mode. And I wound up going to the police station. Neighbors calling them because I have to get my beat. People calling all the time, and every single time this joker. I wound up in Chicago, separated from the kids, and it was just one toxic relationship after another. Now, another connector to this story is that while I was from pillar to post trying to work with social services in order to get my kids in a place for my kids, they had me staying in places like, imagine in the 1970s, it's an old abandoned gas station, just a little small structure. They had taken out the gas pumps. They put me in there, no refrigerator, no stove, no place to raise a kid. Then I wound up bouncing to staying in hotels. And I invite this guy over, and the next thing you know, it would be 30 years later where somebody that I told the whole story, I didn't clean it up. I just told them the straight up story. I invited this guy over, yada, yada, yada. And the guy asked me this simple question, and it changed my life. And so for over 30 years, I held that self-loathing and that shame to the point where I could not tell that story. This man never cursed. But one day he got me on the phone. He said, Linda, I wanted to tell you that's effed up. That's effed up. That man has to own what he did to you. That's not your responsibility that he did that to you. That's not your fault. Let him own that part. And then he explained to me that once I learned the truth, that my responsibility began and ended at the point where I invited that man over. Began and ended, full stop. For all intents and purposes, I was still in that man's grip for 30 years. Once I got that revelation, I could go back and write the book. So now I'm stuffing. Man up, suck it up, right? When you're like that, you cannot keep going through life from a reactionary standpoint. At some point, you have got to stop, turn around, and face the past. My life reflects the danger of stuffing stuff and having a wrong mindset like you deserved it. It's all your fault. And when you do that, you take on a shame that will not allow you to tell your story. Trauma will steal your voice every freaking time until you begin to see and realize and embrace the truth that whatever you've been through is not the end of your story. See, we all have stories. We have stories we don't tell. We have stories we have tell. We have stories we've forgotten. But we don't understand that those stories become the scripts by which we live our lives, okay? It's running your life whether you see it or not. Let me tell you what all of that stuff and that trauma did. I wound up married to a man I didn't even know was a... Well, I'm sitting there in the lobby of the courtroom, November 9th, 1989, and they just snatched him out and convicted him. The first thing out of our mouth is the judgmental, how could you not know? And then you want to blame that wife for what he did. But I'm telling you, I've lived it. If a joker doesn't want you to know his dirt, you will not know his dirt. We as women, especially if we've been traumatized, we can fall in love with somebody's potential. We can fall in love with a man because we see all the good that God created him to be that never happened. And what we ignore is the fact that we are living with the repercussions of how they dealt with or failed to deal with their own trauma. So we're not facing the truth of who he believes he is, which is what's slapping us in the face every day. We're still hanging on to that fantasy that's waiting to happen. We have to understand that you can't be in love with somebody's potential. How all of this affected my children was that they had to pay the consequences for my life decisions. It was years before I understood how they were seeing me and the situation as kids. My son thought he wasn't good enough. You know, why am I not good enough for her? Why is she prioritizing this one and that one? And, you know, what's wrong with me? I mean, I found this out years later. But my daughter went through it. She was raised in the ghetto streets of Detroit. And she was very angry, until I faced my trauma, until I shed the false shame so that I could be honest and vulnerable from the heart and talking to them as teenagers. I wouldn't have done this when they were little kids, but become teenagers and young man and young woman that I had to own. It's been very difficult to work through that with them. Now, it came around with my son and everything, but the major turning point with my son was him reading that book I wrote and telling me, Mama, I had no idea. I understand now. He said, I can't tell you how I understand now. And that brought us closer. My daughter, we were working through all of that too. So, but the bottom line is she's got 4 beautiful children. She's living a life that her heart desires. She loves being a mother. So she's living the life that I never lived. It's a human condition thing, really, when you begin to drive yourself in arenas where you can realize measurable success and outcomes. And you don't understand in the middle of that the other side of your life is important too. And you will have to face that other side of your life when the professional side of your life is over. If you are suffering a pain that you are running from, you're going to run to either something positive or negative in order to divert your focus from that pain. And that's what I did with the going to school thing. That's what I did as I grew through my emotions and learned how to better cope with how trauma was playing out with my professional relationships. You just focus on the good stuff. You focus on the stuff that's measurable success. Why? It's less painful to do that. It's less painful to do. Look, there are a lot of professional women rocking the boardroom and their life is torn from the floor up. They do not see, or they may even see and not understand how to navigate why their life is all tore up. Why they keep going in and out of these toxic relationships? Why am I heartbroken for the 99th time? Why am I misunderstood again? Why can't I get that together? Bad relationships with the husband. If you're married, might be married to an abuser. You don't never know how trauma played out in somebody's life. You know, you don't deal with all of that. Because you have something before you where you can shine, and it'll take your mind off of the pain. But nobody gets to skip that, y'all. If you were traumatized as a child, and you were traumatized at a point in your developmental growth where it kind of stunted you, is what we call arrested development in psychology, then you're going to be stuck at that age on some emotional level. I don't care if you're 99. Okay, but we don't get to skip those developmental stages, y'all. And at some point, even the most successful professional woman will get tired to the point where I just want fulfillment in my life. And to navigate that, you need a lot of support. So make your life and trauma count. So you make it count by accepting that you went through it. You accept that it's something you can't change, but you can take revenge on it. That's what we get to do. We can't change it, but we can take revenge on it by making it count, and make it count by embracing your healing journey. Understand that you don't have to believe that your past is the end of your story. Pick up the cosmic pencil and start rewriting your life. I'm seeing somebody that's sitting there and they don't understand that they're traumatized. All they know is that there's a dark cloud that just engulfs them throughout their lives, and they're sitting in that now and they're beginning to feel hopeless. What I'm going to tell you is, again, that is not the end of your story. Pray for the courage to turn around and face whatever has you in its grips, and understand that you get to rewrite your story. Hope, purpose in the suffering. Your life counts. You matter. There's somebody out here in this world that only you can reach. Hey, if you like what you see here today, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you know when we upload, and like and share the video. Thanks.